just because we're going to send this out after. We're also going to send out the presentation, so don't worry if you miss anything. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We're really happy to be a part of Boston Design Week. So our agency is called Metter Media, as you can see. And today we're going to be talking about creating social media aesthetics for your brand. And then we also have a ton of ideas and inspo that we're going to end the presentation with that you can use for your social media. So we're really excited to be here. Hope you get a lot out of this. And then just logistically speaking, we're going to end with a Q&A. So if you have any really pressing questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A and we can pause. But for the most part, we kind of want to wait till the end to answer all of your questions. So just write them down. We'll answer them all. So we're just going to dive in with who we are. So on this call, we have Ashley Rago waving right now. So Ashley Rago is our creative director at Metter Media. She's amazing. We also have Rachel Mansler, our associate designer, also extremely talented. So Ashley and Rachel are our creative team at Metter Media. So for our agency, they're doing the creative. So basically all of the graphic design and graphics for more than 50 different businesses that Metter Media works with. So it's cool because they kind of have the design insight for social media specifically, and then also across all different industries, which is cool. And then also we have senior account manager, Kate Berry, on the line. So Kate is a superstar on our team too. So she specifically focuses on the design industry. So I know a lot of people that are tuning in are part of the design industry. So you can see actually, I think on the next slide here. So Metter Media, so we're a totally social media focused agency. So we don't do public relations. We don't do, traditional. We really focus just purely social media is kind of our specialty. And we have a team of 15, all amazing. And we work with more than 50 different clients locally and nationally. So you can see, today we're focusing on the design industry, but we also have a ton of real estate clients, like all the luxury apartment buildings that you see popping up everywhere. We work with a ton of those. We work with architects, Tile Showcase, Designer Bath. These are all in the design industry, so we're going to be speaking to that a lot today. We also work with, all kinds of wild card things that we never thought we'd get into, like law firms, like finance, and if you guys like Anna's Taqueria, if you're locally, we work with them. Rachel actually does the social media for them, which is great. All the way up to Microsoft. So, we've definitely grown a lot in the past 7 years. We love working with all of our clients. And then again, we're going to send this out after, so we don't have to look in this now. But if you do want to get an examples of our work, and specifically the people that are going to be teaching this class, we have links to feeds here for Designer Bath, Tile Showcase, and Carol's Kitchen. So these are all design industry accounts that our creative team has designed these whole gorgeous aesthetics that you see based off of these brands. So they're going to go into how to do that today. And then finally, before we get things kicked off, I did want to mention that at Metter Media, so our bread and butter is kind of like a full service social media management. So if you don't have time for the social media, we kind of totally take over your social media, the content creation, the community management, the ads, everything. We take it off your hands. But we do have a social media branding package, and this is somewhat new for us. So if you like what you see here with the aesthetics that our creative team have designed for these design industry accounts, we have a new package where we would come in and look at your brand online, and we would basically create a whole social media aesthetic that matches your brand for you. And then we would include editable social media templates. So you could just kind of keep running the social media by yourself, but it would look as gorgeous as some of the things that you're going to see today. So if you're interested in learning more, we're going to have this slide again at the end, but also you can just email us at info@mettermedia.com. All right, so we're going to dive in.
Awesome, thanks, Lauren. So first, I'm just going to give a general rundown of the creative team process here at Metter. A lot of this is actually included in that social media branding package that Lauren just mentioned. But the first step once we get a new client is to really try and understand their brand so that we're able to represent them on social in the most accurate way possible. So we do this by first setting up a kickoff meeting between the client and the assigned MetaMedia account manager. And during this meeting, we not only present some of our content ideas, but really just ask a ton of questions about the client and everything we might ever need to know about the brand. So things like, what's the voice, what's the brand style, overall vibe, what makes your brand unique, priorities, competitors, roadblocks, design issues we might face, that sort of thing. And then after the meeting, the account manager then goes back and writes up a creative brief that basically just lays out all of this information in a more digestible format, and also includes any relevant assets and details, things like links to the website, logos, color codes, graphics, you name it. And once they've drafted up this creative brief, they then meet with us on the creative team to basically just run through this document and reiterate the information to us. And then this kind of leads us to step 2, which is really determining the brand's story, or in other words, what the main goals are for the brand's presence on social media. So goals can be everything from generating more sales, establishing an online community, creating trust, reaching a new audience, maybe just providing a new outlet for customer service. Or of course, it could be a combination or even all of these. But knowing what's truly the most important thing to the client and knowing what story they want to tell and share with the world basically guides us in every creative decision that we make on our end for the client. So, again, that we're portraying them in the most accurate way possible. So some examples you can see here. First, for Designer Bath, we knew that it was really important for them to highlight that they have a super knowledgeable staff that doesn't just care about the sale, but really values the relationship with the customers. So we made sure to include a way to really showcase this via social. The next example is for Carol's Kitchen. We knew that tax-free weekend was their biggest sales weekend of the year. So obviously, promotion for this was really important to them. And we made sure to create a really visual, eye-catching series solely focused around this day. And the final example is for Tile Showcase. This was when quarantine first became, a thing. And it was really important to the team to showcase the safety measures that they were implementing. So we pretty much pivoted our social media strategy and just came up with some really fun, creative ways to demonstrate this. So after we figure out and nail down the goals for the client, we've really discussed the brand in detail. It's now time to move on to the next step, which is what we on the creative team consider the fun part, where we basically use this information to create the brand's social aesthetic. And we usually kick off the design with a few templates we know we'll need based on the client's goals. Rachel will actually discuss this in a little more detail in a minute. But we incorporate the brand's colors, fonts, logos, everything I mentioned before, and basically mimic the feel of the brand's website to draft up a mock-up Instagram feed. And this feed includes these templates we've created and basically just provides a preview of how the new social feed will look with MetaMedia's touch. And our ultimate goal with this is to make the feed an extension of the brand's website. So just making sure that we keep everything cohesive, beautiful, and of course, again, a true representation of the brand and their story. So as you can see here, we have an example of a recent aesthetic we created for Carol's Kitchen and one of those mock feeds that I was just talking about. So Carol's was an interesting client because they actually didn't have a defined brand guide. So we kind of had to use our creative expertise to come up with like an overall vibe that we thought best reflected them to create a cohesive social aesthetic, which you can see here. Yeah, so now I'm going to pass it off to Rachel to dive a little deeper into the templates and some more of the design.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. So yeah, jumping right into how we get started with our design process. First, we're going to start developing some of those templates that Ashley just mentioned. So anywhere from 4 to 8 or 9 templates that we're going to use frequently or circumstantially on social media. So some examples of those templates are staff spotlights, testimonials, and customer or client reviews, product, vendor, or project spotlights, a template for any announcements, any blog posts, or any web pages that you might want to highlight on social. And lastly, any industry-specific content that the client wants to highlight online as well. So below are just a few examples of the types of templates that we might put together within the design industry. And one example that I want to specifically call out is that on the bottom left. And this post showcases a transformation process, first from the initial interior design mock-up to that finalized product. And this is really kind of a direct representation of bringing what the client does in real life into the digital space. And our job is really just to kind of come up with a fun, pretty way to push that online. And then for our next step, we go ahead and create a Lightroom preset. So if you're not familiar with that term, it's essentially just a filter. And the purpose of this is to match the aesthetic of the brand. And we create this by pulling or adding, subtle hints of brand colors or lightening and brightening photos. And sometimes when the word preset is thrown around, it infers really heavy alterations to images. But this is absolutely not always the case. They can be really subtle. And again, just add that cohesion and unity that we have been discussing, just really pushing, beautiful, nice images on the feed. So below are a few examples of a before and after applying a Lightroom preset. This on the left is a little bit more dramatic, adds a little bit brighter, cleaner, minimalist feel, and actually even a high-end vibe. And then on the right is a little more subtle, and it just kind of lifts those shadows, cools down those yellow colors that you're seeing in the image, and just, again, making it a brighter, cleaner photo. Okay, and then after we create this Lightroom preset, the next step is really just to bring this all together. So we take those templates that we made, we take the preset that we made, and we put it all together in what we call a mood board, or as Ashley mentioned, kind of an Instagram feed preview. And this is how we first present our work to our client, just to showcase kind of our overall vision for how we see this brand on social media. And an example of this is on the right. And then a real life example of this, here's a before and after of Carol's Kitchen and Bath before our contract versus after. So as you can see kind of on the right, there's a little bit more cohesion and bringing everything together nicely, a really strong sense of brand identity through those colors, those fonts, and just really kind of, like Ashley mentioned earlier, trying to replicate the feel of their website onto our social media feed. So now I'm going to pass it off to Kate, and she's going to discuss some fun content ideas that you can bring into your social media.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so we're going to dive into some great, fun content ideas. The first is, of course, showing off your staff. So this is a great opportunity to show your staff's personality. These always perform so well on social media. People really love to see the human faces behind your business. You could do a standard, more formal staff spotlight like these two on the left, or something more fun and timely like the top right, where we'll see a Designer Bath staff member who's wearing their mask. Or on the bottom right, we see two staff members having some fun while social distancing in the showroom. The options are really endless. Next is doing a digital series. So this is a great example of hopping on a trend and kind of making it your own. This is something we've been seeing a lot of on social media, using graphics that reflect things that we see in our everyday life as we spend a lot of time on our phones. This is what makes it so eye-catching and what we like to call thumb stopping, which is when you stop scrolling on social media and really focus on a single post. The two posts on the left are promoting virtual tours. These are really neat because this was actually a new feature or service for both of these companies. during COVID. So this was a really great way to promote this new offering on social media. The top right is a reminder post reminding people about an upcoming sale for tax-free weekend, and this mimics receiving a notification on your phone. The bottom right is a screenshot from this company's website, which was easily photoshopped onto a phone template. So you'll see with all of these posts, each company really kind of made it their own. You see their logo, their fonts, their brand colors. They really made it their own style. Next is storytelling. So not everything has to be sales focused. In fact, it shouldn't. You want to tell the story behind your business and the products that you sell. Even talk about the people that you work with. So for instance, whether that's interior designers, contractors, or architects, you want to tell their stories on your feed. This is a great opportunity to really humanize your brand and really connect with your audience. A lot of times, if you're in the design industry, a lot of interior designers have a really big social media following, especially on Instagram. And this is a great opportunity to partner with them and have them post about your business, have them tag you and share it on their own platforms, getting in front of their audiences. It's just another great way for exposure. The top left post, you'll see we told the history behind a business. So this is about the history of Designer Bath. So we picked out significant dates in Designer Bath's history and presented this in a slider post. The top right is an interior designer spotlight. This is telling the story of someone that works closely with the company, and it's also a great opportunity to get a testimonial as well. The bottom left is part of our showroom favorite series that we do for Designer Bath. For this, we interview a designer or a builder, asking them their favorite pieces in the showroom, and we put this out on the feed with their quotes, and we direct people to the blog on the website. And then lastly, in the bottom right is our Turn Back Tile series for Tile Showcase. This is where we told the history behind different types of tile. This gives more dimension to your business and your products, and people really appreciate learning more. Next is community. So you definitely want to show how you're helping your community during these hard times, and it's really important to your audience. So take this time to tell the stories of your community and how you're giving back. You'll notice none of these are sales-focused posts, and they may not even directly relate to the company at all. They tell the story of the community around them. So for instance, the top left post shows photos of Carol's Kitchen giving back to their community, and they tell that story through images. The top right is a screenshot of a local Watertown article about a woman helping deliver meals to seniors during COVID. This was part of a Feel Good Friday series where we tried to spread some positive news during a really tough time. The bottom left is actually a video. We highlighted some local restaurants who could really use your patronage at this time. This was for Designer Bath. They have showrooms in Watertown and in Beverly, so we did just some local restaurants in those areas. And lastly, the bottom right showcases some art pieces that a Designer Bath staff member created. And this actually performed really, really well because it showed something that a staff member is really good at and passionate about outside of the office. All right, and here's some recent content examples. So these examples show how you don't need to stick with just the templates that you create. It's really great to create some one-off posts that go with a national holiday or a new season. This keeps your content fresh and timely. So create a new series, have some fun with it. A few of my favorites here are the top left, showing some fall colors for the new season, a nice play on like the Pantone colors. And another is the bottom right for National Coffee Day. This is one of my favorites. This is for Carol Kitchen. It's showing the different types of wood for kitchen cabinetry and matching them up with different kinds of coffee. So just a really fun take on that national holiday. So these are all really fun. They relate to the business and they aren't overly salesy. All right, so getting started. So you want to ask yourself, what's your story? What's your company's story? You want to tell the story behind your company and its people, not just the products. You really want to humanize your brand. Give a reason for your audience to connect with you online. Why should they like your company over another? You also want to produce meaningful and purposeful content. Really want to post with a purpose and not just post on social media merely just to post, to put something out there. Lastly, ask yourself what makes you different, what's your unique story to tell, and put that out on social media. And a rule that we live by at Mentor Media is 4-to-1 gets it done. This is a great ratio. You'll want to write this down. So for every 4 posts about community, partners, industry, you'll want to do 1 more sales focused post about your business. This is the perfect balance for your social media feed.
So Kate, the video is going to play now.
Yes. So this is yes, so this is designer Beth's post on the top. Just a really fun way. This is during COVID and, people are wearing masks. I mean, there's a lot of really negative news going on. So we wanted to put out something positive. So this is just a few staff members having some fun in the showroom. And it's also showing some products too, showing the designer Beth products. And the bottom photo, this is from Tile Showcase. They had this really cute visitor. So we wanted to take a photo in front of Tile. So it is still in front of the product. But we had a little fun with it.
Very cute. Oops, there it goes again.
All right. And then most importantly is be authentic. So you really want to develop your own voice, your own brand. How do you want to come across online to your audience? You can find inspiration from others online, but ultimately make it your own. So today during this webinar, you hopefully will have a ton of new great ideas, but you'll really want to make it your own and have it fit your own brand. And then lastly, people really love companies who are themselves online. You'll notice a more loyal following and more engagements when you really stay true to your brand and stay authentic.
All right. So that's our program. So this is great actually, because Zoom fatigue, I think this was the perfect length. So now we're going to do a Q&A with our amazing team. So if anyone wants to ask us questions, you can do it in the Q&A section if you guys see that, or if you just see the chat, you can do it there too. And Kate's going to field the questions, right, Kate?
I will field the questions.
Okay. So don't be shy.
Trying to see if I recognize any names so I can call out people, but anything that anyone wants to learn specifically. Oh, here we go. We got some. So here's a question. Ashley, this may be good for you, actually. Are there particular colors that attract attention on social media?
I mean, I've seen different studies say different things, but I personally wouldn't pay attention to that. I think it's important to stick to your brand colors, and make sure that if you are, trying to keep your feed looking cohesive, to stick to those colors, because then it ends up looking like your website and keeps everything nice and cohesive. I have seen that cool colors, so blue tones and that sort of thing, is more appealing, but I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true. So I would say, stick to your brand colors and just kind of go with it.
Good answer. All right. So here's another question. What social media platforms do you work with? I can answer this. So with the design industry clients, I work mostly with just Facebook and Instagram, I find in the design world, Instagram is probably the largest. You'll see that this varies. I'm going to knock out 2 questions in one answer here. There's another question that says, do you focus on specific platforms? Like the difference between Instagram and Facebook. So for the design industry, it's really, really focused on visuals. And that's where our audience is going to be. So you'll see us focusing more on Instagram and Instagram strategy. And really the aesthetic is a big part of that. If we look at a different type of client, maybe in like the finance industry, you'll see us having more of a LinkedIn strategy because that's where our audience is. So really think about your audience, what you're trying to sell, and figuring out where they're going to be on social. All right. How often do you recommend posting on your feed? Lauren, do you want to take that?
Sure. We get this question a lot. This is a really good question. So kind of like for most of our clients, we do 3 times a week. We think that's like the sweet spot of how many times you should post on social. We do think that, over posting is a thing. Like, we've seen people kind of post like, I don't know, 1 to 3 times a day. And, we like to focus at Mentor Media. And I think we would recommend this too, on quality over quantity all the time. So, if you're only doing like 3 posts a month, but they're like amazing content that gets like tons of engagement, I would consider that more valuable than posting every single day that's just like fluff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Okay, and then we have a Lightroom presets question. Rachel, this might be good for you. It says, I've heard a lot about Lightroom presets. Do you get to input your own brand colors so every post is automatically cohesive, or does the user need to adjust the filter to match every photo piece of content?
Yeah, so that's actually a really great question, Shelby. Lightroom presets are not sort of a one-size-fits-all thing, and just kind of recognizing that every photo may not look 100% perfect when the preset is applied. That's a judgment call after applying the preset, sort of seeing if you need to tone things down or amp things up depending on whatever photo you're working with. To answer the first part of the question on applying kind of brand colors, yes. So that's sort of the idea behind using a Lightroom preset is you can amplify. So let's say your colors are orange and teal for your company. You can create a preset, or there are tons to buy online. You can kind of just Google around and find some good ones on there too. We create ours ourselves in-house, but you can alter the image. So you can pull out kind of a stronger orange or a stronger teal and apply that across all of the photos that you have from a certain photo shoot or that you're archiving. And that really helps create that cohesion. But yes, great question. You do sometimes need to alter the image.
Perfect. All right, and another question, should we template each of our posts / having the same filter for each of our posts? So, I mean, I think that does kind of tie into Rachel's answer there. I don't know, Ashley, if you want to maybe elaborate more on that.
Sure. So no, I don't think it's necessary to have a template for every single post. What you kind of run into having a feed that looks way too designed and artificial and not authentic if every single thing is a template. Especially in the design world, there's a huge importance to have a majority of the post just be focused on the actual designs and the products. So to answer that question, no, I wouldn't say everything needs to have a template. And then what was the second part of that, Kate?
It was about like keeping like the same filter.
And then, yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what Rachel said, like having the filter preset helps to, make a more cohesive feed and make all of the images have a similar, filter on it. But again, sometimes those need to be tweaked depending on the image, because it's not a one size fits all thing.
Awesome. All right, great. And then another question here. So the company I do social media for is a travel agency. Would you suggest having an overall brand vibe or transitioning from season to season? Creative team, do either of you want to take that one?
I can hop on that if you'd like. So I would recommend always starting sort of with a core or central brand identity or vibe, to use that word, just so that you can always have something to either refer back to or just, like I said, have at your core. I see from time to time, especially in the travel industry or with travel influencers, people transitioning from season to season. So I would say just maybe kind of reflect and look inward on that company and what their goals are. And if that's something that makes sense for them specifically, I see no problem in kind of straying away from that, core brand identity if that is making sense at the time.
Perfect. Thanks, Rachel. Oh, this is a good one. Do you have any tips on using stories or reels on Instagram? So yes, reels are the new thing. You'll notice on Instagram, they did just update their format so that reels actually show up and they have a button at the bottom. There's also now a shopping button too. So I definitely think brands should be hopping on this in a way that fits their brand. You do still want to remember to make it authentic and not awkward, but at the same time they are really fun and you do want to show that fun part of your business or your company. So I definitely think hopping on that trend is important. Do you guys have any tips on using stories or reels on Instagram that we should add?
I just wanted to kind of go off of what you said about reels and kind of the new, update that Instagram rolled out. Instagram does tend to favor those that are using their newest, updates and things that are just rolling out. So algorithmically, it is a good idea to start using reels just, so that you start showing up on people's feeds more often as well. Mm-hmm. For Instagram stories, I'd say my tip is to kind of maintain professionalism while also giving that a space to really bring that personal element into the company. So sometimes, something might not make it to the feed because we are carefully curating a feed or you want things to look a certain way. But Instagram stories is really a place that you can kind of bring that personality and showcase who you are as a company in a really kind of organic way.
Oh, one thing I wanted to throw out there that works really well for the design industry, for our design clients on stories, is the poll feature is so fun, especially with like design style. So we do that all the time, like for, I think, Designer Bath and Tile Showcase, we're like, which bathroom vibe do you like better? And we get like so many people voting on it. We get so much engagement from that because people do love to vote on like interior design style and stuff like that. So I would say, like, in addition to like the authenticity aspect, which I think is cool, like the selfie video, and it's like, here I am on the project site, like here I am like designing this like, interior. I think the polls are really fun too.
Yeah, I think like just trying out the different features on there, there's so many. You'll see like the question sticker, all these different stickers. And I think just trying them out, trying to see what your audience engages with the most. Yeah, so try out new things, see what works best. Okay, we did get a question in the chat. Ryan White said, we're so busy with our craft that we have ignored our social presence. What's the low end for Cadence? And I think, Lauren, you kind of answered this a little bit with just, kind of focusing more on quality over quantity. So you definitely do want to post consistently. You definitely don't want to leave your audience on red, so to speak. But at the same time, you don't want to just post to post. Remember to post with a purpose. And then at the end of the day, if you don't have, time for that, that's what Mentor Media is here for too. So we are here to help. And then another question here, how far should we tag brands and people on our posts? You guys have any thoughts on that?
Wait, what was the question? Like how far?
Yeah, how far should we tag brands and people on our posts? I don't know if like how many, maybe they meant like how many, if there's
How
too
often?
much. I think personally when I do see someone maybe over tagging in a post where you click on it and then there's like 20 different tags that pop up, it seems spammy. It's a little too much. So I would definitely tag whoever is, you know, in the photo, whatever is relevant, instead of tagging whoever you want to see it, because I do feel like that may come across as spammy. I hope that answered your question. Okay, let's see. Jennifer asked, is it true that you should include your face every 9 or 10 Instagram posts? Wow. Who wants to answer that one?
I mean, that's a really specific question. I mean, I think the answer is yes, you should include your face. Like, I do think faces and people perform the best on social media, and it all goes back to like what Kate and Rachel have been saying about like being authentic and showing like, you know, the real people behind the business, and like those types of posts tend to do the best. I don't know about every 9 or 10, like as like a science, you know what I mean? But like, I definitely think regularly, yes, you should do that. So whether it's like you talking personally about your business, or whether it's like the faces of your staff giving a design tip, or like the face of an interior designer, I think faces should be definitely balanced with the project shots a lot.
Yeah. And I think too, from like a photo content perspective, you know, if you want to mix in some photos of, you know, dogs or babies, we find those work really well. Any cute photos work really well on social media. That's the real secret. Perfect. All right, let's see. We have a question. Do you cross post? Is a question. Does anyone want to answer that?
So you mean, so basically at Mentor Media, what we usually do is we do take the same content, we map it out with like an editorial calendar, and then when we post, we do usually post the same content on different channels. However, we use like different language for each channel. So like where we'll take, maybe on Facebook, we would tell like a longer form story, where on Instagram, we'd like totally slash that caption and make it like only 2 sentences long. So it's kind of like the same content, but just like in a different language based on the channel. Same with like on Facebook, we would never use hashtags like in the caption. But on Instagram, we would want to do a first comment with like 20 to 30 like interior design related hashtags. So we do cross post, we use different language. And then there are a couple things that we actually don't cross post. Like for example, one example of that would be like an article. Like if we're doing like a link to an article, like say it's like top 10 design industry trends for the fall. We might post that, like just the link as a thumbnail on Facebook. We might not even post it on Instagram, because Instagram's not like a link friendly channel. Or we might take a screenshot of the article and like put it on this like a design template background, and that's what we use for Instagram. So to answer your question, we do use the same content across like all the different channels, but we alter it based on the language of each channel.
Awesome. All right, and then another question, do you spend money promoting posts on Facebook or Instagram? For my clients specifically, we do. You know, we have a certain budget per month. We map out what posts we do want to boost on Facebook and through Instagram directly too. A note about this, I would suggest not blindly boosting. You do want to boost to a specific audience to really narrow down your audience, who you want to target with your content. Because if you're not doing that, you know, you are just kind of boosting out into the world without any sort of target. So that is something to remember. Perfect. All right. Another question. When we are starting an Instagram page, should we feed it a lot at the beginning? Rachel, this might actually be good for you because of Carol's Kitchen is pretty new.
Sure. So just to clarify, is this sort of, Kate, maybe you have a better understanding, feeding it out being mapping out the posts or posting more often?
I feel like it might be posting more often, but I don't know. Maybe we can just chat a little bit about, Carol's Kitchen and what kind of went into the process of getting that started and mapping out that feed at the beginning.
Sure. So we always kind of, when either starting an Instagram page or taking over a new Instagram account, we kind of like to launch, for lack of a better term, our work with a grid. So sometimes you'll see on Instagram like little bits and pieces of an image or cut pieces of a bigger graphic that when you go to their profile, all 6 or 9 little squares make a bigger image. So that's kind of just like a show-stopping thing that we like to do to create a beginning or a clear kind of division of where we're taking off. After that, we really try and just kind of start developing a strategy that we're going to continue normally. I would say if you're thinking of posting more often, I don't necessarily see a big benefit to that, because one, you may not have as many followers at the time, so you don't want to use up a bunch of content that could be seen by more as you continue to grow. And also just kind of getting onto that schedule of posting how you will be posting while you grow your following. And like I said before, just kind of implementing the types of posts that you'll continue on with, and maybe starting off with some, staff stuff to introduce yourself, or product stuff to show what you do, and things like that.
Just one thing to add to that, if you are creating a new account like from scratch, it is really nice to start with that grid. So when people do come to your brand new page, there's content there, as opposed to them coming to this empty page and kind of being deterred and like, well, what is this account? So it's nice to have that grid, because it's an easy way to kind of fill the feed and to have content there without putting stuff out that may not be seen by a lot of people.
Awesome. Okay, and then someone asked, will the recording of this Zoom be sent out? I just joined, so I missed the first portion. Yes, Lauren, we'll be sending that out.
Yep, and the presentation.
Awesome. All right, and then another question here. When working with clients, do you make a social media type calendar? I'm always trying to think of engaging content with a tiny volunteer team. We are a nonprofit. So yes, we absolutely do build this out ahead of time. We put together editorial calendars, sometimes months ahead of time. We really like to have everything planned out. Big things we look for are, big campaigns, especially with, the showrooms that I work with. We like to think ahead to, okay, what holiday sales will be going on? What holiday campaigns do we want to run? So mapping those out way ahead of time. Figuring out any national days that we want to be hopping on with a trending hashtag. How can we get seen on social media? How can we reach our audiences? So I think just really trying to plan ahead, especially if you do have a smaller volunteer team, just try to plan ahead as much as possible, because that will actually help you in the long run, and it'll save you a lot of time. Awesome. Okay, and someone asked, did you say no hashtags on Facebook?
Yeah, so I said that. So we usually try to limit the hashtags on Facebook. I mean, no one really uses hashtags on Facebook, so like when we're writing our captions and we're taking them and putting them on Facebook, we don't generally use hashtags at all. I mean, if you think about how you use how you functionally use a Facebook page, do you ever like click or search a hashtag like very infrequently? You know what I mean? Where like on Instagram, it's all about the hashtag, you know what I mean? So for Instagram, again, like I can't stress this enough, we do recommend for the first comment of every Instagram post using 20 to 30 hashtags that are related to your industry. So it could be design, it could be related to the location where your potential customers are. So like hashtag Boston MA, hashtag like Andover MA, hashtag West MA, you know, location hashtags, industry hashtags, and then just kind of like play around. If you like go on the Instagram app and search hashtags, like for example, like I know nothing about like coding or engineering, but we do Microsoft, their social media on Instagram. So I just search in the tags on Instagram, the hashtag engineer. So you could do the same thing with like hashtag design, and it'll show you on Instagram like the top used hashtags. And that's where you want to pull those like 20 to 30 hashtags. So, you know, Instagram, Twitter, if you still use that, LinkedIn, actually hashtags are like really important now, but Facebook, they're just like not that important.
Awesome. Great. And then another question for Ryan White, we have, so no housekeeping by purging old posts. Is it okay if there is a break in styling? Lauren, did you want to take that one, or?
I mean, we usually, when we take over feeds, right, creative team, we don't usually like go back and delete old posts. We kind of just start fresh, right?
Yeah, typically we start fresh. I think one being that we're not like the official owners of the account. So if the client does want to get rid of or archive old posts, we would happily do that for them. But we don't usually take that on ourselves just because there might be content that they do want to save. I'd say from an aesthetic point of view, I think it's fine to show kind of a difference in styling because it's always kind of good to evolve and grow and change. And if somebody does, you know, scroll all the way back on your feed, it means that they're interested in what you're doing to go back that far. So I think it's fine.
Awesome. All right. And then another question here, is it okay to reuse content on the same platform? Content that hasn't been used in 6 months or even older? So I think like for this, I would definitely try, if you can, to find a way to repurpose it maybe in a new way. So you aren't just repeating content. But when I think about specifically like an architecture client of mine, they have wonderful project photos that I may, you know, I may have posted it 6 months ago, but I may post it again now, but I will refresh the caption a bit. Just finding ways to kind of keep it fresh and not posting exactly the same thing. Creative team, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. If there's a way to repurpose in a slightly new way, I think there's no problem doing that.
Yeah, for sure. As long as it's still relevant. I mean, I don't see any problem with it.
Awesome. Perfect. And then we have a last question here. How long did the creative process take for Carol's Kitchen?
Sure. So I believe for Carol's Kitchen, it took in between 5 and 6 hours. Again, it kind of depends on the client and what, you know, number of templates we create, or if they have some more strict design and brand guide restrictions. Some of our more, you know, techie clients have a little bit more strict brand guidelines, which are, you know, we have to adhere to. But for Carol's, it took in between 5 and 6 hours, which we always try to finesse the time in doing that as well.
Awesome.
And then Kate, I see one more question in the regular chat as well.
Let me open it up. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Sorry if you already answered the question, but how do you technically preset a custom filter?
Sure. So that is also a great question. So we use the program Adobe Lightroom. There is a version for your computer or for mobile. The mobile version is really, really user-friendly. And you can create presets in there basically by taking an image, altering it to the way that you would want it, maybe even like copying and pasting those settings to a couple different photos to see if it's translatable across several images. And you can develop your own presets in there. There are a bunch of YouTube tutorials and stuff on how to do this, both on mobile and on desktop. Another option is purchasing Lightroom presets. So a lot of companies and influencers create their own preset packages. So if you have sort of like a general idea of what you want your images to look like, but you are really kind of not savvy in creating that yourself, you can find those online, or of course that is a service that we offer as well. So happy to, chat with you about that if you're interested.
Speaking of which, if anyone's interested in talking about the social media branding package that we do offer at Meta Media, or even if you just want to pick our brains, about the creative and your ideas and things like that, feel free to reach out to us, info@metamedia.com. We're always down to talk about social media or do a free consultation for you. But yeah, this social media branding package, this could be great for you. So, all right. So is that all the questions, Kate? Yep. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for having us. And thanks again to Boston Design Week. This was really fun. What a great Q&A session. That was awesome. So again, we're going to be sending out the recording and the presentation afterwards. But thank you guys so much for spending the afternoon with us today. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.